We're in the information age, but facts are in short supply. Reject the noise, ask bold questions, and pursue the truth with FBI whistleblowers and founding suspendables Garrett O'Boyle and Steve Friend. This is the American Radicals Podcast.
It is the American Radicals Podcast on a Saturday. The weekend's here, guys. Congratulations. You made it through that Monday to Friday grind, and we are grateful to have you with us today on rumble.com/amradpod. Reminder, please give us a nice thumbs up and follow the channel if you want to subscribe. I'm not going to stop you. If you want to listen to the audio format of the show, you can get us on iTunes and Spotify and iHeart. We drop those episodes there every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday after we get done recording them at 10:30 Eastern Time. And you can also check us out on YouTube or on X at X America News, all across different platforms, trying to expand out the brand so we can radicalize more Americans. It is a Saturday, which means that the tradition like no other returns, the Saturday grab bag. We're going to be looking at different stories that might have eluded your attention, slipped a couple past the goalie. There's all these big headline stories out there. I'd like to drill down on some other things that maybe you just didn't quite pay attention to, but are nonetheless important to make sure that you're up to speed on what is going on. So we're going to talk about 50 bizarre side effects of common medication. We'll not go through all 50, but some ones that you probably should be aware of. Dogs are causing climate change, according to communist Gaia worshippers. We're being encouraged to lease electric vehicles, trying to get you sucked into that program, but they're saying it's not going to cost you less than $100 a month to completely retrofit your house and make sure that you plug into those 3 magical holes in the wall, because pixie dust is totally charging up your Tesla. China is planning on the next epidemic. The World Economic Forum has now reemerged with new leadership, and it's the BlackRock CEO. Shocked, I know you are. People aren't reading for pleasure, and the recommendations from the most elite is, of course, more government. Radioactive food has been on sale at Walmart. They're doing a recall. We want to make sure you know why. And we're going to get to the big changes that are underway at the Cracker Barrel and how costly those woke decisions are, because if you go woke, you go broke. So we're going to get to all of that today and a whole bunch more. But before we do, let's thank our underwriting sponsor of the day, and that's the M-Clip Company. You can go to m-clip.com, m-clip.com, and when you do, the promo code is suspendables, and that will get you 10% off of these luxury, made in America, family-owned business money clips, where you can get them to have your initials on there. You can have them looking metallic, old school leather. You can even get the suspendables line, which is available, that has our badge and our logo. These are lifetime guarantee. They won't break the bank. You even get the 10% discount with the promo code suspendable at m-clip.com. So in these times that money's getting a little bit tight, you will indeed have a little bit of money to put into your money clip. And I promise you, you will get some accolades for it. You're going to get complimented on it. I like to pull out my M-Clip and see what people notice about it, because it's pretty cool. So check them out, m-clip.com, the promo code suspendable. And without further ado, let's bring on my co-host on the American Radicals Podcast. You know him as @GOBActual1, Garrett O'Boyle. Still suspended from the FBI, Garrett?
Yeah, still suspended. Maybe not for long, though, Steve.
One never knows in these untested times where apparently social media is dictating policy at the premier law enforcement agency for the country. But it is a grab bag day, and that's major news. So we're not going to cover that. We're going to talk about some other fun stuff, like how taking medicine might make you really sick. You ready to go?
Yes, fire away.
Well, actually, I want to start with some good news.
Yes.
Because you are you're a connoisseur of the beef.
I do love the beef.
I think you have no love lost for this company, Beyond Meat, which shockingly
Steve,
is headed into Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
This might be my favorite story that we've done in, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, maybe.
Beyond Meat owns no real intellectual property, and every company in the meat and grocery business basically sells a knockoff version of their product. So they carved out a niche and didn't make sure they did the trademarking. So there's all these generic versions of the exact same product out there. So when one self-serve frozen yogurt chain opens up in your town, the line's out the door. But when the next one opens up, they start to basically just eat into that market share. And that's exactly what's happened to Beyond Meat. As of June of 2025, Beyond Meat's cash and cash equivalents balance was they had about $117 million on hand. Their outstanding debt, $1.2 billion.
Whoa.
Never tried the Beyond Meat. It just
Never.
makes me think that I'm going to look like Bill Gates if I consume that.
Yeah.
Look,
One-
I don't want people to lose their jobs, but at the same time, you might be working for an evil industry that is propping up one of the weakest and yet most powerful villains in the world.
I
or
kind
his
of
sort.
I kind of do want people to lose their jobs. I got a whole list of people actually that I want to lose their jobs. Some of them have lost their job recently even. But I'll let you find folks at home figure out who and when that may have been and when it may have happened. But 1.2, 1.6, what'd you say? Billion?
$1.2 billion of debt.
That's a lot of money. Who's going to pay that debt? Who's going to pay that off?
I think the Chapter 11 reorganization is we're going to dole out the $100 million we got on hand, and everybody else that invested in the future of not eating meat and having man boobs because of the high estrogen levels. You're just going to get caught holding the bag. You made a bad investment choice.
You should have stuck with the real meat, people. That's really what you should have done, because it's almost as if it was provided to us to have dominion over and to eat for sustenance. But hey, what do I know, Steve? That's Old Testament right there.
And it leads to some health consequences, which might lead you to taking some common medications, which is the subject of and the next story that I have comes from Cheryl Atkinson. She featured it on her website and also on her Substack. And
Big fan of hers. Big fan.
50 bizarre side effects of common medicines. Now, I pulled out some of them that are just kind of salacious and some of the things that I think people should just be aware of. And we're talking about eating the Beyond Meat and how it can grow the man boobs. So let's go to the first choice, which was a condition called gynecomastia. And it occurs in male children and adults growing breasts from taking antipsychotic drugs.
Oh, no. I don't like it.
Could lead to further depression, I would think, and problems. This one's weird. Black hairy tongue after taking antibiotics.
Gross.
It's commonly triggered by broad spectrum antibiotics like penicillin, which are prescribed for bacterial infections such as strep throat or skin infections. So you get strep throat and then you have black hair growing on your tongue.
That's disgusting.
Do you have to shave it with a razor?
Oh, goodness. That is one of the most horrifying things I've ever heard.
Well, I mean, more horrifying than blue urine from taking an antidepressant.
What causes it to be blue?
No further information from one Cheryl Atkinson, but I guarantee you she's real briefed up and researched on it. I'll just look off screen. Deafness and hearing loss from vaccines.
Wow.
Vaccines being
safe and effective, Steve.
The MMR, the coronavirus, rabies, and hepatitis B vaccines have been known to cause deafness, color blindness, and vision changes from Ozempic and Viagra. So if you want to get lean so you can get laid, too bad, you're not going to be able to see color.
Lose some weight, have a boner, but you can't see color. Great.
Priorities. Chickenpox vaccine has been causing shingles. And here's some of the ones that the actual drug has been linked to causing worse problems of the thing you're taking the drug for, right? So not only did it not cure your condition, it made it worse to a greater extent. So from Cheryl Atkinson, insomnia from sleep aids. It's called rebound insomnia.
Oh,
and
they should have called it like ironic dosis or something.
I think what basically happens is you become dependent on the drug for sleeping purposes. And then if you come off of it, then you can't sleep even worse than originally. You had trouble falling asleep. Now you can't sleep at all because you're completely dependent on the sedation effects of those drugs.
It's like an alcoholic, or it's like somebody who takes Afrin for more than 3 days in a row, then they can never go off of it again.
Did you have to take the Ambien when you were deploying overseas? I've been told that that is what is rampant within the military.
Yes, it was rampant when I was there. Thankfully, I stayed away from it for the most part. My company commander, though, every night the dude was taking, unless we were like out, but he was taking Ambien every single night, and it's like, I don't think that's safe and effective, my guy.
Mm.
But they did give us Ambien on our flight home from, I guess it was Kyrgyzstan technically. So on our way from Afghanistan, you stop at a couple places along the way, but they gave us a couple Ambiens. I think they gave us 2 because they said, take one when you leave Kyrgyzstan, take one when you leave Ireland, because you stop in, oh, dang it, what's the name of the place? Shannon, I think. Shannon, Ireland. So you stop there and then you get off the plane for a little bit, kind of stretch, get food, whatever, get back on. But if you didn't know, Steve, the army, well, at least the infantry, is often riddled with people that come from a rather sketchy background. And some of those guys were like, hey, don't take it Ambien when we leave Kyrgyzstan. Like, let's just hang out and chat and party as best we can. I mean, party, you're on a plane, no alcohol, no women, just a bunch of infantry dudes, but you're safe, you're physically safe. You're not in Afghanistan anymore. So, and this one guy was like, if you take both Ambien at the same time and then force yourself to stay awake, we're going to have a blast. So when we leave Ireland, let's all just take both Ambien and see who can stay awake the longest. And it was one of the most fun and funniest things that I've ever participated in. And then eventually we all did fall asleep until we were like landing back at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. But it was awesome and hilarious because we're all like, no, you got to stay awake. You got to stay awake. Like, don't let it take you over, because then it kind of like alters your faculties to a degree where you're just very slap happy. And like one guy would just like kept like pushing the chair in front of him and just like laughing hysterically. It's a good memory. I haven't thought about that in a really long time.
I remember my sister did an international flight and she had an Ambien and took it and didn't wake up until they landed. And I remember thinking, like, they had multiple meal services during this and nobody thought to check on you.
Right.
Because,
what if she was dead?
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know if an Ambien can kill you. Maybe.
That only happens in Commando when you kill the guy and nobody notices till they land. Obligatory movie reference
Richter.
Out of the way. All right, a couple more here. So you talk about worsen pain from taking painkillers because they become addicted to it, particularly opioid induced. They call it hyperalgesia. Compulsive gambling from an antidepressant. Sudden urges to gamble excessively stem from the dopamine surge, because you get the dopamine surge. How you gonna get to? Well, I don't know. Like, I'll just put my entire mortgage payment on black. Right.
Why not?
Tendon ruptures, ligament tears from antibiotics, and bone density loss from acid reflux medication, because weakened bones are impaired because the calcium absorption increases the fracture risk. So it starts to pull the calcium out of your own bones because it is used to getting that certain influx of the calcium from the acid reflux medication. So be careful. We're not doctors. We don't play one on the American Radicals podcast, but perhaps you shouldn't necessarily take antibiotics unless you want a hairy tongue. Right. And, we're talking about health conditions. Talked about Ozempic, which could make you colorblind. But what's the risk here of, are you even aware that you're particularly obese and overweight? Because I saw this story. It's a couple of years old, but it was making the rounds again. We love to talk about language on the program. How we can't say that it's baby murder or infanticide. We'll call it termination. Well, the Terminator's the bad guy, so we'll do abortion because it was a mission that just never launched. And so it's reproductive health care and justice, right? That's the evolution. So apparently the problem for fat people is that you're calling them fat, or at least obese. So the subject of this study that was actually done and recommended, and it's covered here on mdedge.com. Headline: should we rename obesity?
No.
That's the problem. Public perception of disease is everything. It's the disease.
Yes, it's not actually. The perception of it is not everything. You can look at a morbidly obese person and determine that they are morbidly obese, and it's the disease.
It's the stigma attached to the name of the disease, which is why, according to these researchers and big scientists big time. They said diabetics are now referred to as people living with diabetes. Like, they
Oh,
didn't cause
come
it.
on.
It just fell out of the sky and landed on them.
Steve, are you a person living with asthma or are you an asthmatic?
I don't even know if I'm a person. I don't even know if I have hands.
Also, Steve, speaking of language here, obesity is also not a disease. I don't care what anybody says. As somebody who has struggled with weight in my life and I have lost weight, I have been super fit, I have been super obese by any metric. I've been obese. I have been somewhere in the middle. It's a lifelong battle for sure, but
Well,
it's not a disease. It's caused from the choices you make. And guess what? If you eat more meat and less of the other crap, you will be less obese. Ask me how I know.
counterpoint, direct quote, 25 years after the initial recognition of obesity as a disease, the concept is still riddled with negativity,
Well, yeah,
whether
because
openly or you could have unconscious bias, according to these researchers. There's a stigma, and it makes people think that people who are obese are lazy, sloppy, unintelligent, and unattractive. Well, they are
well,
unattractive.
yeah, I mean, most of that is true. Maybe the intelligence part isn't always, but yeah, I would say yes. I'm going to question your work ethic and your discipline habits if you're obese.
Mhm.
And look, there's a lot we can get into about the standard American diet and what they put into our food and what we eat, but we still ultimately make the choice on what we shove into our gullet.
Mhm. Well, the beauty standards have changed over the years, and now apparently not being a sumo wrestler is in vogue. They do not just present problems, though, Garrett. They have a solution. The
Oh, do they?
recommendation for a new name for obesity. One possible new name introduced by the American Association of Clinical Endocrinology and the American College of Endocrinology was ABCD
Hmm.
for adiposity-based chronic disease.
Okay.
So I'm not fat, I'm absidy.
I'm absolutely. Let me pop this up here, Steve. You yogged my memory. Do you remember these Calvin Klein ads? On the left is like from the 90s, on the right is from like 2018 or later. I don't know the precise dates. I just pulled the picture. But you tell me, folks, you got a bunch of fat trans people on the right, and I think at least the one looks trans.
One's got a beard, I hope, but he's wearing a sports bra.
Right. So
Isn't
is
that the
that for
man's ear, according to Seinfeld?
yes, it is the bro. Um, and then the guy on the left. I mean, come on. Like, sure, are we making snap judgments to some degree? Yeah, that's what humans do. But do you think the guy on the left is more disciplined than the people on the right? I do.
At least he's more airbrushed.
That's but you
Abs, I will say this. Yeah, look, this condition is called absidy. So here's my going theory on abs. Abs don't exist. Nobody has them. Everybody just says they know a guy who knows a guy who saw a guy with abs.
or if you look on Instagram. Although Instagram seems to be heavily laden with AI images and videos these days, and so you almost can't tell if it's real or not.
Hmm. All right, you want to pivot over to off the health track? Let's go to the climate pagans, right?
Oh yes, our favorite, one of our favorite topics.
So I found an interesting piece, and you can agree on an outcome, but not have the same position as the people, right? You see these polls, right track, wrong track, and it'll say like 70% of Americans think we're on the wrong track. Well, like 35% of that 70, so half are saying like, hey, the government's too big. And the other 35%, the other half are saying like, we need to be more communist. So strange bedfellows agree on wrong track, but for exactly opposite reasons. So I say all that because Fortune has a piece here where headline, your dog is part of the climate change problem.
Oh
Quote, I
no.
can adopt 100 bunnies that will not be close to the emissions of a dog because my dog is a carnivore, unquote. Now, how am I having strange bedfellows here? I'm also in favor of not having dogs, but it's
Yes.
not because I'm an anti-humanist like these people from Fortune. I just don't want to have problems breathing because I am a person suffering with asthma, not an asthmatic. All right. The top 3 individual actions that help the climate, according to Fortune, includes avoiding plane flights. So take an Ambien, get on a flight. Now you're hurting the earth. and using renewable electricity and not getting a dog. Dogs are big meat eaters, and meat is a significant contributor to climate change. That's because many of the farm animals, which will become food, release methane, a greenhouse gas that contributes to the hole in the ozone layer, we all
Oh,
know.
sure. Yeah. Okay.
Beef is especially impactful in part because around the world, cattle are raised on land that was illegally deforested. So they took the trees away, which are capable of breathing in that carbon dioxide, which they tell us is a pollutant.
Are there more layers there? Are they saying they were illegally deforested because we stole them from the Native Americans? Is this what they're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, the deforestation is happening in like narco-terrorist countries, but don't prioritize that as a regulation, let alone a law. So I think they might have taken liberty with that term. But their takeaway is that because dogs eat meat, they should probably eat the Beyond Meat. Maybe Beyond Meat found its niche market, right? Like
Mhm.
they can put IAMS or Pedigree out of business with Beyond Meat dog food, which is probably what most of that stuff tastes like.
I'm sure it is. I wouldn't know because I'll never eat it. I would say eat more beef, folks. But a dogs, I imagine, would walk up to a bowl of some dog food laden with Beyond Meat, and they would sniff it, and they just wouldn't eat it. That's what would happen.
I guess animal instincts do kick in. Maybe I do need to get a dog. I agree. I like my dog's politics. All right. So second adjoining piece with the Gaia worshippers, and this is also tied to financial issues where they're trying to trap you into making a bad financial decision for yourself long term because it has the shiny appeal to it, and that's from the Los Angeles Times. You can now lease an electric vehicle for less than $100 a month.
Hmm.
A Mercedes EQB starts at $53,000, but at the moment, the swanky SUV is one of the cheapest cars in the country. Though for certain cars at certain dealerships, bargain hunters can find a monthly payment below $100. The one they found was in Boulder, Colorado, which has a clock on its website counting down the seconds until the federal electric vehicle tax credit ends, where you get the free government money. So you buy an EV. It's advertising one model for $39 a month. Now you do the down payment and now you've leased a car. The problem with leasing a car is that it's the most financially expensive way to operate a motor vehicle. And if you lease the vehicle that is electric, you're kind of like pot committed at that point. You have to retrofit your house, you have to have the charger, and that makes you more inclined to always buy an electric vehicle going forward. That's what they're finding. That's sort of the scam. So leases now comprise nearly 3 out of every 4 EV transactions. 75% of the EVs you see out the road, and I've seen a lot of them. I mean, everybody out there, I'm seeing like Teslas. I'm like, that's a very expensive vehicle. How are you affording it? Well, because they have these ridiculous leases that they're putting on, and now they've got them captured, and they're always going to be beholden to buying an electric vehicle, and that's the enticement.
That is the methodology there. I gotta say, from the companies, it's a smart one, and I do wonder what it is. It seems semi like a contagion, and I say this from very limited experience because, as you know, Steve, we homeschool here at the O'Boyle household, and I have nothing but little girls running around at all times. Yet somehow they know what Teslas are, and I don't know how they know that.
Cybertruck, same here with my
and
kids.
and they point them out. There's a bar nearby, and it's like a staple mainstay in the community we live in, and I'm pretty sure I have been able to deduce that the owner drives this really sharp looking brown, if you're into Cybertrucks, which I really am not, but trying to be objective here. As far as Cybertrucks go, it's a cool looking Cybertruck. It's got like this very glossy like brown paint, and I see it drive by very often, and it's parked at this bar all the time, and at all hours, like in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, like it's there randomly during any period of time. So I'm like, night, like it's there randomly during any period of time. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the owner. It's got to be. But whether it's a Cybertruck or just your run of the mill standard Tesla, they're always pointing them out. Tesla, Tesla, Tesla. I'm like, one, why do you guys know what Teslas are? And two, why do you point them out all the time? They're not that impressive, are they?
Maybe they just like Elon Musk.
I don't think
Now,
they know who he is.
so industry standards for leasing a vehicle, again, the most expensive way to operate a motor vehicle, 16% of the vehicles are leased, according to this piece from the LA Times. It's 3/4 of electric vehicles are being leased right now. So people are being sucked into this in a very expensive way of operating these vehicles. Look, there's a apartment complex that's relatively close to my neighborhood, and I see the Teslas rolling out of there, and I'm thinking, hey, maybe you should prioritize more permanent housing. Now, I have considered the fact that that apartment complex might have free charging stations, so they're thinking like, hey, I got free gas, for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
But I don't think that that person who lives in the apartment complex went in with cash and purchased a Tesla.
No, certainly not.
Now, I do want to recognize things that I think are innovative and they are good for alternative energy sources. And I have this really cool video of something that's going on now where feet are generating electrical power, and this can be captured. Check this out, Garrett, and tell me that you don't object to this.
Japan generates electricity using people's footsteps. Tokyo, one of the busiest cities in the world, has installed these special black tiles on pedestrian walkways. Every time someone steps on them, the tiles capture the kinetic energy from footsteps and convert it into electricity, powering the city's future with every step. At the core of this technology is piezoelectric technology, which converts mechanical pressure into electrical power. A single step can light up 10 bulbs for 20 seconds. This technology is now spreading worldwide, with several European countries implementing it in high-traffic areas, such as football stadiums and amusement parks. Every bit of kinetic energy is maximized and transformed into green energy, making each step part of a sustainable future. Who would have thought that every step we take is quietly changing the world, turning walking into a glowing experience? How cool is that?
Dude, that's crazy. Are they publicly traded? Because if they are, buy.
All I'm thinking of is I'm trying to do the math in my head, and it's just too many zeros. 10 seconds or for 20 seconds for 10 light bulbs for one step. Garrett, I take 20,000 steps every morning when I go for a run. I could power my whole house for
That's
the day.
I kind of love it. Like, part of me is like, no, eat more beef and use more coal. But maybe I need to put some of that to bed, because that I'm sold right now. I'm sold on this. Now it's going to turn into draconian measures, as these things always do, and they're going to be
Compulsory
forced.
treadmill walking.
Yeah, like, people, this is going to be the new slavery. Like, we have to power the king's city, and so everybody get to your stepping, but
At least we wouldn't have an obesity epidemic or an absidy problem.
hey, that's true. They don't have that in Japan. They don't have that problem. So maybe we need to walk more.
Well, they don't have obesity problems in Japan. They might have the next pandemic happening, though, in China. So let's go to the high wire and talk about pre-pandemic live exercise, China's all-out war on mosquitoes. The mosquito-borne this condition is called chikungunya. It's a virus that's taken hold of China. It's very reminiscent of the COVID-19 disease and
Oh, no.
lockdowns. There are entire districts that are completely sealed off. Drones are on duty, hospitals locked down with mosquito nets, residents are threatened with fines for non-compliance, all while being sprayed with toxic chemicals to kill the mosquitoes. They're getting sprayed, the people, all right? And this is China. So this is all for a virus that does not spread person to person and is very rarely fatal. Saying a little bit eerie resemblance to COVID-19. So December 2nd, 2024, a study published in Science Direct noted that the virus is, quote, a neglected tropical disease of growing public concern with outbreaks in more than 114 countries. And while they also noted that Bill Gates' funding of vaccine research for viruses like this is a big help and a, quote, pathway towards public health impact to inject the masses before these outbreaks begin. Let's inject an experimental gene juice into your arm for a disease which you can't catch from another person, but you might get from a mosquito and is rarely fatal.
And Bill Gates is involved. Steve.
Lockdowns.
as if you go on social media, heck, even if you listen to us, you will hear news stories about people that maybe should be arrested, or Russiagate, or bad actors in government that need to go, or whatever. Bill Gates might be the worst of them. But before we get too far afield, Steve, I gotta seize my opportunity. I'm not throwing away my shot here.
Cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China.
It comes from China. That's why. And here we go again. I mean, it's seriously is like they're just say, hey, just rewrite the chapter a little bit and we'll run that again. We'll run that playbook again. Like Harry, I don't know. I didn't ever read through all the Harry Potter books, but take Harry Potter or Vince Flynn, who's dead and doesn't write the books anymore. The best example, Tom Clancy. Take Tom Clancy books. They're all the same at this point. We've read it. I don't care who's authoring it and plastering Tom Clancy's name at the top. We've read the Tom Clancy book, okay? And if you haven't, just read Rainbow Six. It's perhaps the greatest. Maybe it's because it's the only one I've ever read cover to cover. But hey, we've seen this before. We've seen this playbook rolled out, and here we go again. It comes from China.
And that's Bill Gates. So, we have to, at the moment, take into consideration all the other potential antichrists out there, the other billionaires that seek to control you. And that's what takes us to the story from the Daily Signal, because Klaus Schwab had to step away from the World Economic Forum because we're based now. We're so back. I think there was palace intrigue connected. He was misappropriating assets there. He was basically paying for luxury trips for his wife. And
he was wearing that vampire coat.
He might have been fondling the help behind scenes, but it was always my contention that it was just the up and coming younger Klaus Schwab was probably knifing this guy in the back. They weren't going to course correct.
No.
And of course, that's exactly what wound up happening. So very much like our ex-girlfriend over at the FBI, they now are going to have co-chairs of the board for the World Economic Forum. But the more prominent figure, the more well-known, as Daily Signal reports, is the guy who runs BlackRock, Larry Fink. So Klaus Schwab stepped down in April. Whistleblowers filed a complaint after the Wall Street Journal published an investigation claiming that the World Economic Forum's culture was hostile to female and Black employees. They weren't woke enough. Then BlackRock CEO Larry Fink and a Swiss billionaire whose name is Andre Hoffman are now the co-chairs of the board for the World Economic Forum. And just as a refresher for what BlackRock does, Fink has attempted to walk back some of his activism in recent years because he's aware that the political winds have shifted and people are not as woke as they used to be. He doesn't want to go broke. But his firm at BlackRock faced backlash from conservatives, but state treasurers were also cautioning him. I know in Florida, they were saying we're not going to invest our state pension stuff in BlackRock. So as far back as 2023, Fink stopped using the term ESG and claiming it had been weaponized, and he deleted DEI statements from his website. And this other guy, Hoffman, he embraced stakeholder capitalism and is a big proponent of the Gaia climate paganism. Now, stakeholder capitalism, just as a refresher, if you're new to the American Radicals podcast, I've done longer explanations of it, but essentially stakeholder versus shareholder is a big deal. Those terms are very important because if you purchase a share of a company, you are a shareholder in that company. The company's principals, the chairman of the board of directors, the CEO, they owe a fiduciary responsibility to you to make decisions that will let that company prosper, make a profit, so that you will make a profit as a shareholder. And if they don't do that, if they do things that are actually in opposition to that, they can be held accountable legally. You can sue them. I'm not sure about prosecutions go, but there's definitely recourse for you to go after them. However, there's now this new transition away from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. Those are not people who have purchased into the company. They're saying we owe a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to the stakeholders. Who are those? Everybody. So we can't take any actions that are going to hurt the stakeholders. So if I'm running a bank, I can't give a loan to an oil company because they're going to dig up that black gold and that's going to hurt the environment. And even though we're not going to bring in a profit as a bank and our shareholders are going to suffer, it's good for the stakeholders. And if you, as a shareholder of the bank, say, like, what the hell are you doing? I'm not making any money. I'm losing money on this investment. They can say, you don't have any recourse because we've embraced stakeholder capitalism, not shareholder capitalism. It kind of gives them like an ollie oxen free. So that's what these guys are all about. And really, what is that about? Well, we're going to bring in cultural Marxism via the private sector. The government can't do it because we have these pesky, dusty old documents called Constitution that says that, from each according to his means, each according to his ability is not something we've signed up for. But that's private industry. They can do whatever they want. They can control all aspects of everything in the economy. And very much like the government shut down the economy entirely to just push pause for a chest cold that was probably caused totally by a bat that flew 600 miles without resting at all, then puked into a soup. And then we had patient zero there, not from the biolab that your government manufactured. Very much like that. The economy can be controlled, though, by BlackRock, and we can bring about communist endeavors that the government wanted all along.
You sound like a conspiracy theorist, Steve. For me, I see this. Klaus Schwab was bad enough. Now you've got Larry Fink stepping in here from BlackRock. And if you even just scratch the surface a little bit on BlackRock, they are nothing but an evil entity. And now he's basically hiding in plain sight, deleting this language off the website, saying, okay, like it's to me, from my view, it's very satanic, because I think during COVID, I think it became pretty clear that Satan must have gathered around his strongest demonic horde and said, now's the time. We need to divide. We need to divide them. And they went to work and they said, yeah, we've been at this for thousands of years and it ebbs and flows, but they seized their moment. But they didn't realize that a lot of people were then going to wake up. They're going to wake up spiritually. They're going to see that people like Bill Gates, like Klaus Schwab, like people from BlackRock, that they're evil. But instead, they're still pushing the envelope. BlackRock's not good enough. Now he's going to be the co-chair of the WEF. This is not good, folks. This is not a good thing.
They're combining forces like Captain Planet when your powers combine. And as a result of that, you're going to put one globalist insert to the same exact organization. And for anybody who's saying like, hey, this is just a bunch of rich people that like to meet up in Davos. That's true. I mean, they go there and they're not eating the Beyond Meat. I mean, they're eating the duck à l'orange and having the arugula as a side, Barack Obama's favorite vegetable. But they've actually
got their private planes taking them there, but not you rube.
Hey,
you can't.
Plane travel is one of the biggest causes. So maybe they should get rid of their dog and stop the private plane travel. But they put this out there. This one was kind of scrubbed from the internet, very much like the DEI policies at BlackRock, but it is an oldie and a goodie about the World Economic Forum, which had 8 predictions for the world in 2030. And if you've checked a calendar, that's pretty close to coming soon now. This is
going to be good. If you're not aware of this program,
you'll own nothing. Whatever you want, you'll rent, and it'll be delivered by drone, or you'll lease it like a Tesla. 2, the U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower. A handful of countries will dominate, like the World Economic Forums. 3, you won't die waiting for an organ donor. We won't transplant organs. We'll print new ones instead, or we'll just take them out of people who are dying. 4, you'll eat much less meat. No, they're chapter 11, so that one's wrong. An occasional treat, not a staple, for the good of the environment. 5, 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change and die. We'll have to do a better job of welcoming and integrating refugees, a lot of illegals. 6, polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. This will help make fossil fuels history. 7, you can be preparing to go to Mars. Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space, the start of a journey to find alien life. Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten.
Dude, there's so much there. There's so much hidden in how they have their peaceful sounding music and their nice looking images. There's so much buried in the language there. In each one, just about. Oh man, Steve. It reminds me of one of the sermons we went through a while back where they were in Revelation a little bit. It was one that we focused on government with, but talking about, I mean, this is it. This is that one world order. This is that step towards the end where we're all going to be united. It's all marching towards that time. And but that video, to me, it nearly raises goosebumps. Although I've done enough of a dive into WEF, like during, essentially, I think I first started looking into it like during COVID lockdown era, because I was at home for 2 months or whatever it was. And I was like, this is not good. This is not a good thing. But they really are trying to hide in plain sight. They're telling you their plan.
Yeah.
They're just counting on you not being smart enough to read between the lines on the language they're using, what they're actually saying, what they actually want to implement, and how they're going to do it. And they've already started too.
And I think the back-to-back things there where they're talking about carbon will be illegal. Carbon is people. I mean, just straight up, you're a carbon-based organism, as am I. And carbon dioxide that we exhale with every breath is something that the trees breathe in, and then they exhale oxygen. It's almost like the system was set up in that symbiotic way by a divine power. But I want to contrast that with, because we're going to cut down on carbon, which means we're going to cut down on people, which is what they want. They're population control people. And yet at the same time, we're going to pursue interstellar space travel. And these are the people that if the baby's pinky toe is still in utero, you can kill it because that's not a life. If they found a single-celled organism on Mars, that would be life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because to them, at least, it would be disproving that there was a divine being that created life on this planet, and maybe set up a system where we could exhale certain air and inhale other, and that would have a relationship with nature.
Man, just, I guess I can't get over the fact of even the piece they talked about meat. Again, carbon comes into play there, and they say it's going to just be a treat. No. You don't tell me what is or isn't a
Bite a
treat.
treat when you're walking on the treadmill to generate power.
Dude, while drones are delivering your Beyond Meat that is suddenly out of
Spraying you
bankruptcy.
down for mosquito-borne illnesses. You heard it here first. That's what 2030 looks like.
Yes.
You know what I don't want as a treat? I don't want radioactive shrimp, which is the subject of the next story here on the Grab Bag, the Saturday Grab Bag on the American Radicals podcast. This is reporting from PBS, which is having to report actual news now that they're not getting government subsidies. Headline: Walmart recalls its frozen shrimp in 13 states, citing potential radioactive contamination. But if it bleeds, it leads, Garrett. Let's dig in to see just how bad it is. Walmart has recalled frozen raw shrimp sold in 13 states because federal health officials say it could have a potential radioactive contamination. The officials detected cesium-137, a radioactive isotope. This is a byproduct of what they reported as nuclear reactions, nuclear bombs, testing, reactor operations, and accidents. So this sounds really bad. And of course, it's in the great value bags, the discount ones. Okay. And then I read into the article a little bit further, and I got to this section. Quote, it's widespread around the world, that is this cesium-137, with trace amounts found in the environment, including soil, food, and air. The level detected in the frozen breaded shrimp was far lower than FDA intervention levels. So it's normally there.
Yeah.
However, the agency said it basically wanted to avoid any sort of risk to people who would just consume way too much shrimp, and then it would just aggregate more and more radioactive material in them, which got me thinking of something outside of if it bleeds, it leads, and we're going to have alarmism, clickbait, and we're going to try to hurt the big bad company that we allowed to stay open during coronavirus. So I don't know how big and bad they actually are. Well, they're probably big and bad to us, but not to the communists who write over at PBS. But it got me thinking about like small trace amounts of radiation. Have you ever purchased a small fish from a big box store?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Were you cautioned to make sure that on your way out of the big box store that you raise the fish up and over the scanners for detecting uplifting theft?
I don't remember that. This is when I was a kid, so I
That have existed. Yes, it's just as a public service announcement, when you walk out of the Walmart or wherever that you're buying your fish, I don't think they sell fish at Walmart, but say a PetSmart, something to that effect. You have to raise that bag up and over the scanners that are on the door that detect some sort of shoplifting, if a barcode goes through them, because the radiation being emitted out of them will hit the fish, and the fish is so small that it'll probably die within a day. It'll be radiated, which
Huh.
talking about small amounts of radiation. How many times have you walked in and out of a big box store with those scanners?
Yeah. I think your breaded shrimp is gonna be fine. Stuff it down your gullet, as many of them as you want. You're gonna be fine.
You're a
Your cell
super
phone, yeah, the metal detector things, the shoplifting anti-shoplifting devices. Oh.
It's either not hurting us and hurts the fish uniquely, or we're just being killed little at a time, or we're gonna be superheroes, one or the other.
I opt for that. Please give me Wolverine's traits. I'd like to heal.
I've got a couple of pieces here from some major news outlets that I want to highlight what they're talking about. And completely different from the radioactive shrimp. It is, after all, a grab bag. Let's get into something a little more serious, which is coming from the New York Times, which is decrying the people on behalf of the people who we said, hey, learn to code and you're going to do really well in society. So the New York Times, which was at one point a newspaper, headline, goodbye $165,000 tech jobs. Student coders seek work at Chipotle.
Mm.
So since the early 2010s, a parade of billionaires like the Bill Gates and the Larry Finks of the world, tech executives, and even US presidents have urged young people to learn coding, arguing that tech skills would help bolster their job prospects as well as the economy. Tech companies promised computer science graduates high salaries and all manner of perks. But now the spread of artificial intelligence programming tools, which can quickly generate thousands of lines of computer code, combined with layoffs at companies like Amazon, Intel, Meta, and Microsoft, there he is dimming prospects of the field. So college graduates aged 22 to 27, computer science and computer engineering majors are facing some of the highest unemployment rates. It's between 6 and 7.5% of these guys, and they're 22 to 27, so they're not just recent graduates. The hiring process is arduous. Tech companies ask candidates to complete online coding assessments. And for those who do well, they have to do live coding tests to see if they actually have the chops. And people are applying in what they're calling, Garrett, a doom loop. So it's an AI doom loop where you use artificial intelligence to write your resume to match the job description. And then the company has artificial intelligence to read the applications and can flesh out the people that are doing that and remove them. So AI versus AI. And as a result, these computer coders are having to go work fast food.
The doom loop indeed. Steve, with some of the stories we've done today, the video played from the WEF, the even harkening back to the Japanese tile things that generate energy, now the AI, it's all coming together. Your 15-minute cities are only about 15 minutes away. And nobody's going to have a job and nobody's going to own anything, and you'll like it.
So you're saying it was a bullish prospect on behalf of freedom to say that 2030 was the day that the world would end? It's actually going to be September 2025.
Yeah, probably around there.
I just asked ChatGPT, it confirmed. All right. So the other piece that I have, and you want to talk about the condescending elites here. I mean, like they combine actual factual information and they extrapolate the conclusion that they have predetermined ahead of time over at the Washington Post, because democracy dies in darkness. And it is about reading for pleasure. Now, it does have some disturbing statistical information in here, but I disagree very heavily with what they would recommend to resolve it. The headline is, why so few Americans read for pleasure. Garrett, just off the top of your head, why do you think people don't read?
Oh, they're too busy scrolling on their phone.
Nailed it. Okay. Uh, yeah, and you can just stream Netflix. It's much easier. Right? Why would I read when I could just wait for the movie to come out?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a pretty stark number. Only 16% of Americans age 15 and over read for leisure every day.
Oh,
So every day. I mean, that's look, I'm a reader and I don't necessarily read for leisure every single day. So that's a pretty high demand of people. But
yeah.
I think that the more apt one would be like, have you read a book this year or something
Yeah.
to that effect, right?
Yeah. Whether it's leisure or not, if you're trying to learn something you're interested in or learn about coding or whatever it might be, like, okay, I might not categorize it as leisure, but do you read that? I think that would be a more apt measuring stick.
But there is a dependent variable here. So the exact same question, people who read for leisure every day, age 15 and above, in 2003, it was 28% of
Mm,
Americans, which seems like a lot of people are either lying or attention spans have dropped considerably.
yes. Both,
Now,
maybe.
2%, you're a parent, 2% of parents read to their kids every single day. And
Wow.
that
That's
pa-
low.
parents of young children, I mean, mine are a little bit older now. I will assist them in reading. Like my younger one, he's 8. I want to make sure that he's getting through it. But my older one, I'm like, hey, here's a book you
Yeah,
should read.
you read on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, my oldest, she's 9, but she's an avid reader. And she's reading she reads for leisure every day. So
Mhm.
good for her. But we read to them. My wife does like a chapter book at night. We alternate. Like both are like biblically based. I do like this daddy-daughter devotion. She does this story. It's more like a storybook, but yeah, we still read to them just about every night. I mean, some
Mhm.
nights, we're over at grandma and grandpa's. We get home later than usual. Maybe we don't, but
Mhm.
typically,
So 46%, almost half of Americans read no books. In that group of non-readers, and here's where we get to the WAPO because democracy dies in darkness. This is where they try to make it about the plight of the women and the minorities and the low income. All right. So from the Washington Post, of this, the 46% of people who read no books, this is about half the population. 56% of them lacked a college degree, while 27% had graduated college. So, shocker, people who don't pursue education very far are less inclined to read for leisure. I don't know. I mean, that you doesn't necessarily require a college education, but I guess historically, traditionally, you went to college because that's where all the books were back in the old days.
hmm
I suppose that tracks okay. Women, white participants, and those with higher incomes were more likely to spend their time reading. So you're telling me that people with higher incomes and the ability to have leisure versus having a second job,
hmm
and women and white people who go to college more often. I mean, it's not really rocket science. I didn't have to go to college to pull that out.
you racist.
Now, this is where the recommendations addressing these racial and socioeconomic disparities could help improve health outcomes. So, their recommendation is to increase access to libraries, which are government buildings. So, expand government and improve access to the internet to make sure people read a book for leisure. I can't connect the dots there other than we want more government and people will, I guess, go onto the internet and use it to not doom scroll but purchase books. And then a note on the attention spans. Attention spans, while looking at screens, averaged 2.5 minutes in 2004. That was when about a quarter of the people were reading every day for leisure. Now, 12 years later, 2016, that's the most recent data. That's 10 years old. Attention span, 47 seconds.
Whew. Steve, we are in for a reckoning in all sorts of ways. And this kind of puts a finer point on it, at least for me. I grew up reading. I love reading. I hardly ever read anymore. Definitely not for leisure. I don't. I'd like to. I mean, do you see all these books back here? A lot of them I haven't read or would like to read again or whatever, but I find myself just not having the time. And where does it go? You might say, hey, Garrett, you don't even have a job. Where does your time go? Most of the time, I don't even really know. But if I'm reading something, it's on my computer, it's on my phone, and I think I need to rectify that a little bit. I need to get back to a bound book on occasion and just take some time, relax, even if it isn't for leisure, even if it's purposeful, which typically I'd say books I read that there's a purpose there. It's not just like, oh, this looks like something to read for fun, but this is trending negatively for humans, certainly in the Western world, because if that attention span is 47 seconds now, how, where are we going to be in another decade? 27, 17? That can't be good for the brain. Cannot be.
I always read for school when school assigned a book to read, or we
Mhm.
have a book report or something like that. I never read outside of that context until I had a very interesting conversation with my dad when I was in late high school, early college. I can't remember when. And I remarked that his brother, so my uncle, is very quick-witted. You'd say something, he'd be right back at you, be very funny. And I said, man, he's really smart. And my dad said, it's not that he's smart, he's quick. I said, well, how do you get that way? He goes, you read books.
Hmm.
So just so I could be snarky in conversations, I took it upon myself to read more often. And it is true. You do kind of like operate a little bit quicker when you do it. And you find ways to fit it into your schedule. I don't get the hardbound books. I'm like you. I just don't have the interest to sit down and read it. I like to be moving around. So I do the audiobooks and do that when I run. I'm the only person in the world who has no music on an iPod. I just listen to books and podcasts. So humble brag there.
You
Let-
do have a quick wit about you, Steve. It's one of the things I admire about you. It's like he's got a quick wit. I like
Thanks, Dad.
that.
One more story on the Saturday grab bag. I got a couple of joining pieces for it because it's about Cracker Barrel. And I know
Oh,
this is
yes.
getting the rounds.
It had to happen.
We have to weigh in on the culture here because Cracker Barrel is nothing if not a prolific franchise that is available about every single exit as you go down I-95 on the East Coast. And I introduced my children to it recently. They're in love with the game where they have to do the golf tees and remove them one at a time to prove your intellect. So Cracker Barrel is going woke, so they're gonna go broke. First piece, they're changing the logo.
Idiots.
They're getting rid of the old man leaning
It
on
just
the
looks
barrel.
it just looks like the Cheddar's logo now, which I don't like.
Good reference. It does.
Right?
Copyright infringement. I hope Cracker Barrel and the Cheddar's has better trademarking than Beyond Meat. But yeah, it's very plain. There's nothing really about it that speaks to it. Apparently, they have this really woke CEO now. Is there a racial element to this because it's Cracker? Because at that point, I need to say that's our word. If you want to call me your friend, like you can say crack but if that hard R, that's offensive.
Gotta get rid of that.
I mean, there's a whole like line of thinking behind it. Well, it's supposed to invoke memories of eggs and our biscuits. And then if anybody's ever been to a Cracker Barrel, it has the country store when you roll in. They have like the huge giant porch up front. It's supposed to remind you of going to, your granny's house, but most people didn't have a granny that was like that. It's shtick. And then they have all the knickknacks on the wall, the old fashioned stuff. Now they've retrofitted many of the franchises. I don't think it's probably gone out nationwide at this point, but I do have a quick video clip of what the now interior of the Cracker Barrel looks like, and let's all weep for our future.
I don't want to see it. No. They've ruined it, Steve. They have ruined it. Would Nike ever get rid of the swoosh? Of course not.
Well, I mean, Bud Light put Dylan Mulvaney on the can.
Ugh.
So there is that, and the proof of concept, and and
Make Schlitz great again.
Well, and as a result, we now have this. This is the image of the new CEO.
Glasses. Her glasses give it away.
You see the MS. Well, the MS Now glasses. Cracker Barrel, Old Country Store Inc. They've lost a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
So shares of the food chain plunged as customer backlash and investor unease drove the chain's worst losing streak in months.
Good.
Cracker Barrel shares tumbled more than 12%. The stock is down 16% and on pace for its worst 5-day stretch since February. And they've lost $100 million in value.
Good.
And it cost them $700 million to do this.
Oh, my. Bye,
So,
Cracker Barrel. I don't think you're going to make it.
by CEO, unless, of course, she's interested in stakeholder capitalism. But nobody likes that, not even the investors.
No. I want to know why. Who is it? The board? I don't know. I'm not sure how the C-suite levels of companies truly work, but who is making the decisions to hire people like this? And why do you keep hiring people like her? Stop. Just stop. But they don't. And then they fail. And good. I say good.
I have a known and successful brand here, so let me just completely do away with it and blow it up and see how that works. So that's a very progressive mindset. It's the person that walks across the field and sees a fence and says, why is there a fence here? There's no reason for it, and just tears the fence down. Whereas the conservative walks across the field, sees a fence, and goes, well, why is there a fence here? Let me walk along the fence line and figure it out. And they realize that it's keeping cows corralled in there so they can continue farting and then being beef for us. And it's like, oh, it's a good thing I didn't take that down.
Do you have the clip handy, Steve? The white affluent scourge clip? Because that's what she is. She's that.
Classic awful AWFL, affluent white female liberals. They're a scourge.
They are a scourge, as Cracker Barrel has now proven once again.
We've reached the end of the Saturday grab bag, but want to get your thoughts and send us off with a nice palate cleanse into our weekend.
Yes, sir. So we're going to just jump right into a clip this time because he reads the verse that I had planned for today right in the beginning. And I was hesitant to go here because we recently did a sermon from John MacArthur, which he died recently, and his service is today, is Saturday, August 23rd. I don't know what time, but I think they're live streaming it. I bet it's going to be really packed. But I listened to this sermon on Monday when I went for one of my vested kettlebell walks. Then I mentioned it to you, and then I listened to it again on Friday. I can't shake it. I really can't, especially with some things that have been transpiring for us recently. And so I thought, you know what? I think I need to just start going through it here, and we'll be going through the whole thing, but we'll just fire away.
I want you to turn to the last chapter of the book of Genesis, chapter 50, and we're going to begin and then do a little bit of a flashback. As you know, we are in a series called Unlikely Heroes that is already a prepared book, and it will be available to you by the end of August. You're going to enjoy reading this book, and we're taking a look at some of the heroes, some of the men and women that God used in remarkable ways, who at the beginning were very unlikely to have the level of influence that they have had. And tonight we're going to talk about Joseph, because God meant it for good. If you look at chapter 50 of Genesis and verse 20, Joseph says, as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. That introduces us to a characteristic, an attribute of God, which we often call His providence. That is to say that God works His own ends. No matter what the intention of people, be it good or bad, God will bring about His own ultimate end. And what God means to happen will ultimately happen. God coordinates and organizes all the apparently independent activities and thoughts and ideas and movements of people, pulls them all together, makes them harmonize with one another to effect His ultimate ends. That is revealed to us in many stories in the Bible, none more dramatic than the story of Joseph. As we come to the 50th chapter of the book of Genesis, there are 11 grim faces staring down anxiously at the floor. All attention is focused on the man who is enthroned in front of them. They are huddled, these 11 are, before one of the most powerful rulers in the world, one who stands only behind Pharaoh in Egypt, and he has the authority to execute them. He is dressed in fashion that would be fitting for one who had the position he had. He is the prime minister of Egypt. He looks down on these humble Jewish herdsmen as they stoop before him. He has had a long history with these men. It is a history of pain and suffering and rejection, and the memories are vividly etched into his mind. They had wronged him, this prime minister, in the past greatly. They had done great damage to him from a human perspective, and now the tables are turned, and he has the power and the authority and the ability to enact severe retribution against them. They are, in fact, his brothers who have betrayed him, and the prime minister of Egypt is none other than Joseph, the one betrayed. And the question that is posed is that what is the action that Joseph will take against his brothers? His father Jacob is dead. They have already buried him. And now they are bowing before their brother. They know who he is. They know the history. It again is vivid to them. And they beg him for mercy. They are frightened because they wonder with their father's passing if Joseph might finally, though he has been kind to them, he might finally seek revenge.
I'll pause it there for now. Just a couple things I want to touch on, though. Back in verse 17 of Genesis 50, his brothers say to him that this is what they claim they heard from their father before he passed. Say to Joseph, please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin because they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father. It says, Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also came and fell down before him and said, behold, we are your servants. But Joseph said to them, do not fear, for am I in the place of God? And it shows a tremendous humility. And it shows that Joseph has healed already on his own and through his experiences that were wicked and horrible and evil, that all started at the hands of his own brothers. And as I listened to this week a few times, it reminded me of a podcast I did with Kyle Seraphin and Alpha Warrior way back. I mean, it has to have been at least 2 years ago now. It was sometime after Steve and I testified, and Kyle, and I think it was one of their roll call when they were doing the roll call show. I don't remember precisely. And I mean, I'm sure I could find the link at some point, but I remember Alpha kind of relaying some of his thoughts about some of his former counterparts that he had at the police department and quote unquote friends. And I said something to him that like really stuck with him, because we even talked about it after we were done. He was like, man, you got me with that. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. And I told him, those people who no longer talk to you, who claim to be your friends, they claimed that you were their brother at one point and that they would die for you. That's the oath you make as a law enforcement officer. That's the oath you make as a combat infantryman. And then it turns out, if they deem you a risk because of something you did, even if that thing was righteous, as is the case with Joseph, as we'll see in the coming episodes, even if it's righteous, they will cast you aside as if you are trash. And as we go forward in the coming days and weeks, I think Steve and I will be able to talk a little more candidly about some of why this is heavy on my heart right now.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't dig into the big news that was coming out towards the end of the week, that there could be some reinstatements of FBI whistleblowers going on, and we're short on the details ourselves, so we're not going to jump the gun on anything there. We are waiting on bated breath, just like everybody else probably is, who pays attention to the Suspendables and to us here on the American Radicals podcast. So, in light of that, I mean, you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow. We didn't particularly expect to be where we are right now. A few years ago, and we were on a different chain on the multiverse here that we never anticipated. But who knows what to expect? Where impossible things can happen, and that is the subject of today's fun palate cleanse, where I got the Hewlett brothers back for another edition of Let's Go.
Oh! Do it. Come on. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh! Go! Come back! Do it! That's it! That's gotta be! Come on! Oh! Yeah. That's it! Come on! Oh! Oh! Nice! Oh! Oh! Nice! Oh! Oh! Come on! Come on! That's it! Oh! No! Yes!
It's so good. I love it. I love it. So great.
If those things can happen, you never know, Garrett. All right. That's going to do it for us on this Saturday grab bag edition of the American Radicals podcast. Back with you Tuesday, 10:30 Eastern time here on rumble.com/amradpod. Until then, guys, have a great weekend.
You've been listening to the voice of the Suspendables on the American Radicals podcast. Follow us on rumble.com/amradpod.